listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
Well, good morning, everyone. Well, it's morning where we are. I'm not sure what time it is when you're listening to this, but we're glad you're listening. Thank you for letting us spend some time with you. Wish I had better news for you today, but that's okay. I need to be careful. I am being supervised this morning.
Hello, everyone. Yes, he is.
For the folks that follow me on Twitter, I replied to something this morning that I saw, and it doesn't surprise me, but our dear friend George Soros put something out and basically said, if you don't follow his agenda, if you don't agree with his agenda, you are a white supremacist. I replied to the tweet. I know a lot of black people who are white supremacists because they don't like George Soros' agenda. Him and Bill Gates and the likes, they don't care what color you are. They want you to be oppressed. They want to lead the world. And the nicest thing I can say is bad things will happen to them if they don't change their ways. So for the folks that follow me on Twitter, if you see that, that's what that's all about. If you've not been to givegod90.com lately, you might want to check that out. Don't forget the books are available. If you like what you hear, remember those share buttons work really, really good. It just helps other people find us easier every time you hit the shares and the likes and all those good things. Myra read something a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to have her read it again because it's just gotten even more important, okay? Solomon tells us there's nothing new under the sun, and we're seeing something happen in the United States right now that was done in Babylon a very long time ago. But again, nothing is new under the sun. So as she reads this, keep that in mind.
Now it pleased Darius to appoint 120 satraps to rule throughout the kingdom, and over them 3 administrators, including Daniel, to whom these satraps were accountable so that the king would not suffer loss. Soon, by his extraordinary spirit, Daniel distinguished himself among the administrators and satraps. So the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. Thus the administrators and satraps sought a charge against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find no charge or corrupt, because he was trustworthy, and no negligence or corruption was found in him. Finally, these men said, "We will never find any charge against this Daniel unless we find something against him concerning the law of his God." So the administrators and satraps went together to the king and said, "O King Darius, may you live forever. All the royal administrators, prefects, satraps, advisors, and governors have agreed that the king should establish an ordinance and enforce a decree that for 30 days anyone who petitions any god or man except you, O king, will be thrown into the den of lions. Therefore, O king, establish the decree and sign the document so that it cannot be changed in accordance with the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be repealed. Therefore, King Darius signed the written decree. Now when Daniel learned that the document had been signed, he went into his house with the windows of his upper room open toward Jerusalem, and 3 times a day he got on his knees, prayed, and gave thanks to his God, just as he had done before. Then these men went as a group and found Daniel petitioning and imploring his God. So they approached the king and asked about his royal decree. Did you not sign a decree that for 30 days any man who petitions any god or man except you, O king, will be thrown into the den of lions? The king replied, According to the law of Medes and Persians, the order stands, and I cannot repeal. Then they told the king, Daniel, one of the exiles from Judah, shows no regard for you, O king, or for the decree that you have signed. He still makes his petition 3 times a day. Daniel 6, 1 through 13.
Okay, now the satraps were sort of governors. They were officials in the king's court. And I like to use Daniel as an example because really he's no different than we are. He's just a man who does the best he can to serve his Creator in a place where it is practically impossible to do so, like a lot of places in the world, right? Now, here in the United States, where we have a constitution that much of the world admires and even tries to emulate to some extent, there are people who want to repeal the Constitution because it interferes with their agenda, like George Soros. Now, here's what I want to address. This was first reported in Decision Magazine, May 7th, 2023. It was picked up by WorldNet Daily, and I'm reading from Bob Unruh's article on May 20th. A new plan from the Biden administration to update guidance regarding prayer in public schools means a crackdown on that activity, suggests a report from Decision Magazine. In fact, a lawyer for the ADF, the Alliance Defending Freedom, which has fought multiple court cases regarding student speech in schools, warned the new Biden plan appears to be suggesting that schools have to purge religious messages from any student speech. Pay particular attention to this next section of that sentence. If the school in any way controls the student's speech. If the school in any way controls the student's speech. I'll continue. He pointed out that Biden also plans to emulate 2 sections that protected the rights of students and teachers, including a provision allowing students to pray during lunch hours. Now, he goes on to write, the problem is, however, the new rule appears to be based on the now defunct Lemon precedent in the Supreme Court, which has abandoned those standards. You see, they allow the government to make decisions on religious issues as long as that involvement served a secular purpose, did not inhibit or advance religion, and did not result in excessive entanglement of church and state. That's what the report stated. Decision reporter Greg Chalfin, who's legal counsel with the Alliance Defending Freedom, warned the Biden rules could lead to confusion, pointing out the plan removes a section that ensures that student groups could choose group leaders that agree with the group's mission. Do I need to say that? I'm going to say that again. The plan removes a section that ensures student groups could choose group leaders that agree with the group's decision. Now, our oldest granddaughter started a crochet club a couple of years ago in her high school. When she came up with the idea, she didn't go to a teacher that didn't know how to crochet, right? She went to a teacher that knew how to crochet, and that's who she asked to sponsor the group. Somebody that knew the activity that they were doing. They were familiar with it. They understood it. Removing the ability for the students to choose who their leader would be puts the school, or in the situation with public schools in the United States, the government in control of who will be leading the students. I'm going to join a lot of people and say this. If you have children in a public school in the United States, I suggest you do everything you can, everything you're able to do to get them out of it. They don't need to be there. Public schools in the United States have become a cesspool where nothing is allowed to be taught that doesn't conform to secular beliefs, no matter how wrong they might be. It's no longer a melting pot of ideas. Your children are being force-fed the agenda of people like Bill Gates, George Soros, and it's people like President Biden who are assisting them in every way they can. And it's nothing more than King Darius. He attempted to remove prayer, and it's exactly what's happening right now again. You know, believers thought they had this beat a couple of years ago. Guess what? You didn't. You didn't squash it. You didn't finish the job. You weren't vigilant. While you were sleeping, they slept this in. While you were being distracted by things like the Ukraine, while you were being distracted by things like China, while you were being distracted by things like the Biden conspiracy and Donald Trump, they slipped this in. But there are some who are vigilant. You know, this isn't a Christian problem. This isn't just a Jewish problem. This is a problem for any religion. Any religion that prays to whatever God they might have. Now, I have always sarcastically said, as long as there are tests and exams in schools, there's going to be prayer in school. And it will happen. Believe me, it will happen. But much like Darius, with the exception that there's no time limit on this, you know, even King Darius was smart enough to go, we definitely need a 30-day time limit with this. There's no time limit. None. It doesn't expire. What's happening today is they are attempting to make the government their God, or whoever's in charge. Again, Bill Gates, George Soros, Joe Biden. They're attempting to do this quietly, or they attempted to do it quietly. But there's some folks picking up on this because they were vigilant. They're undermining parental authority. They're undermining biblical authority. But the vigilant watch. Being vigilant actually means more than just watching. Right? Now, if you follow my MeWe or Torah Network accounts, you know that yesterday I wrote, would you allow your children to swim near a lifeguard who couldn't swim? You see, if a lifeguard's watching, they might even watch very closely. But if they can't react and respond with life-saving measures, they're basically useless. If you're listening and you live in the United States, you have a responsibility to contact your representatives. Right now, if you live in another country, you might be better off than we are here in the United States. See, I happen to know a lot of people around the world who have children in schools where they actually have more freedom than our children do in the United States. They don't have to teach theory. They don't have to teach the dumb stuff that our kids get. They don't, there's nations that say, no, we're not teaching this gender people mutilation stuff. We're not doing it. But it's forced on most children in the United States. What I'd really like to see is a student and their parent who is vigilant and they're willing to be so faithful that they're willing to walk into a den of lions, or in this situation, a courtroom, and stand up for their rights that the Constitution of the United States gives them. To stand up for their rights that our Constitution says comes from our Creator, not from the government. I want to see a judge actually abide by their oath to protect the Constitution. Say the government has no authority over the student's faith. The government has no authority over prayer, a conversation between a person and their Creator or whatever God they choose. I really would like to see the United States and the entire world government make the same declaration that King Darius made when Daniel came out of the lion's den. Go ahead and read what Darius had to say.
Then King Darius wrote to the people of every nation and language throughout the land, "May your prosperity abound. I hereby decree that in every part of my kingdom men are to tremble in fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, and he endures forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed, and his dominion will never end. He delivers and rescues. He performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth, for he has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions." Daniel 6:25-27.
Could you imagine hearing every world leader acknowledge the Creator of the universe should be feared, respected, and obeyed? That would be a great thing, right? But I know it won't happen. Not until our Creator stands up. All the images we have is him sitting on a throne until we get to Psalm 82. And there's something that happens. And it's the same thing that Moses had written, "Arise, O Lord," right? Because when a king sits, he hears the different things that the people have to say. But when he stands up, he passes judgment. And when he stands up and passes that righteous judgment, that's when heaven and earth will be shaken apart. But until that happens, we must remain vigilant, ready, and willing to act, to speak out against every form of evil, no matter where it is, no matter what it is. Not from our particular denominational doctrine, but using biblical authority, with witnesses and example from the Bible to point to show, and I mean more than one, right? You see, if we only use our man-made denominational doctrine, it doesn't mean anything, because it's just our word against somebody else's. It's just what a few people think, no matter how many people happen to be in a denomination. But when we read and do what is written, that becomes the Creator's authority. And no judge, no politician, they can't argue against the Creator of the universe. It's impossible. Darius tried it. Nebuchadnezzar tried it. It didn't work. It didn't work then, and there's nothing new under the sun, it won't work now. This is his universe. These are his rules. Oh, wait, that's the title of a book, isn't it? God's Universe, God's Rules. How about that? See how I put that in there? We cannot allow our children to have their prayers silenced. You've got to teach them. You got to teach them to pray. Teach them how to pray. Teach them it's important to pray. Now, I didn't intend to talk about this like this today. In fact, if you follow my daily writings on either my MeWe page or Torah Network page, because I don't put them on Facebook anymore, it's just, that's useless. I've been writing about being vigilant. So you can expect more Thursday. It's just that simple, because hopefully nothing else will get in the way, and I'll be able to use the examples Thursday that I had planned to use today when I read this. And it's irritating because I talk to people all over the world, and they honestly believe that people in the United States are free. They honestly believe we have an unobstructed way to communicate with our Creator. But when our own elected government stands or attempts to stand in the way of that, what's that teaching our children? It's time for us as believers, and it doesn't matter what faith you are, because it's going to affect every faith. Doesn't matter if you're Christian, doesn't matter if you're Jewish, doesn't matter if you're Muslim, doesn't matter if you're Buddhist. If you communicate with whatever God you communicate with, and you have a child in school, they're trying to stop it. What they're working towards is, you pray to the government. You petition the government for all of your needs. Exactly what the governors in Babylon were attempting to do a long time ago. Because there's nothing new under the sun. It happened then. It's being attempted again. It failed then, and it needs to fail this time. Now, the last time it happened, Daniel was the one who stood up. Well, actually, he got on his knees, right? and he was willing to face whatever consequences that he needed to face to be faithful to his Creator. Who's it going to be this time? Hopefully, it will be every believer, each and every one who says no. Absolutely not. Yeah, I get a little irritated when I see things like this. It's okay. My blood pressure's down. It's all right. I hope yours is up. And I hope you're willing. What's it take to write an email? What's it take to make a phone call? Don't let your child's prayer be silenced. Are you willing to walk into a den of lions? Are you willing to walk into a courtroom? The folks listening around the world, and I know you're out there because I see the statistics, pray for us, because we need it now more than ever. It's time for believers to stand together. Because, like I said, this isn't just a single religious, they don't stop. They don't say, oh, you can't have Christian prayer. They don't stop and they say, oh, you can't have Jewish prayer. They don't stop and say you can't have Muslim prayer. It affects everybody. Everybody. Do something about it. If you live in the United States, you have the opportunity to stop it. It's time to stop the madness. It's time to stop the oppression. It's time to say, we're not going to be silenced. You can't interfere between us and our God. So until Thursday, we wish you
be blessed.
many, many blessings, everyone.